We're wrapping up the show now.
Yeah,
Or
no,
you
I
don't-
think I think we I think
Yeah, I
we
mean, I had a fun, guys. This time flew by,
I'm
and
pretty sure we covered it.
I appreciate the tutorial on how to handle Hangouts and the proper way to record. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do it for 24 hours.
oh, we're live now.
Yeah,
I just got a
yes.
notification on my phone because that limits the things I can say. So I appreciate that.
Hey, we're
announcement.
live now.
Damn it! I was really hoping we could squeeze something out, Elliot. I was really hoping for the I won't say it, but the thing you said before, I was really hoping for that again.
Hashtag brand. He's got a brand uphold.
Slide into Elliot's DMs if you'd like to know what he is into eating. We are live. We're live on the Open Bar Tuesday, always early, never late, 9:30 Eastern. We do have a schedule tonight from Mr. Flexible over here. That's a double entendre there for those listening out there. We J Mike, I was severely frightened tonight that I was not going to be able to podcast with you tonight. Would you care to explain as to why?
Yeah. So for those that don't know, this is my last show here on the Open Bar. And no, I'm just kidding. So what happened earlier today? I left work early, having some headache issues, and I think it turned into a migraine. So I've been a mess all day long. So basically keeping the old spit can ready, just in case I've got to take care of some business from this nausea. But I've got Excedrin working for you boys, so I'm good for, I don't know, maybe 45 more minutes before something might get really real. So here we are.
The takes could be equivalent to that of coming out the material that's coming out of your mouth. So and it is not
That was a
working.
great joke. That was a really good one.
I
Thank everyone.
I literally lost one viewer with that one. So with that, let's try to gain more. We have a few guests tonight that are important to us to a degree, kind of fading on one in particular. Elliot, how are you tonight, my man?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. I'm pumped to be here. That sounded genuine, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm actually, this is one of the more fun podcasts out there. So I legitimately am really happy to be here and kind of shoot the shit with you guys.
So I think the thing is Elliot is still serving some community service hours, and he's just getting that in with us. So I think last time he was on, it was about 3 hours, and I'm pretty sure he's got like 7 left. So this is just the easiest way for him to fire off his takes and serve his time for the punishments against humanity. So thank you, Elliot. We appreciate you for slumming with us.
I'm curious as to what crime you think I committed that made me get this kind of community service.
Bro, cocaine's a hell of a drug. That's what Rick James said. I don't know.
You're certainly outfitted to do it,
I
man.
feel like I've heard that forever, and I never knew what that actually is.
No, it's just the Dave Chappelle skit with Rick James. It's basically comedic gold.
Would you like for me to show you how to find it on YouTube, Elliot?
No, I've it's 2018 and I've used YouTube before, so
don't think that's quite true. Man, if we could only record off air. Elliot said some great stuff, guys. Are you busy at all lately, Elliot? I know you're doing community service right now, so you have to find time to do that, but is there anything else going on in your life?
Yeah, I mean, the Quant Edge just launched last week, thequantedge.com. We got all these DFS tools that I'm really pumped about, the wide receiver cornerback matchup tool, the injury tool where you can take a player off the field and see how, all of his teammates are impacted, offensive or defensive, the head-to-head tool where you can compare players by any metric week to week, heat maps, all this stuff, and the optimizer's coming out. We got a lot of content, podcasts coming up. I'm pumped about the whole thing, but yeah, been slightly busy lately.
Hey, real quick, the chat has already asked Elliot, and shout out to the big homie himself, LJ Cheney, Pacific Scouting. The question is, Gronk or LeBron?
Oh, what are we talking about? Favorite player or
He didn't preface the question. Is just Gronk.
Well, just answer the question, Elliot.
Just answer the question.
Yeah, because I've become the big Gronk guy, because for some reason I'm thinking Gronk's good is a hot take. It's famous that I'm a Jets fan. I don't like the Patriots at all, but somehow I'm known as like the Gronk guy, just because I think he's an absolute steal in the second round this year.
Yeah, I think I read a tweet that you believe he could be the number 1 overall receiver, right?
Yeah, I think he'll lead all pass catchers in fantasy points this year. I think you can be looking at 1,400 yards and 15 touchdowns on like 95 plus catches.
Spicy.
I mean, look at what he's done historically, and people worry about Gronk injuries, but he's played 14 or more games 3 of the last 4 years. It would have been 15 last year, but he tried to kill Tre'Davious White, and the NFL suspended him for that. He's averaged over 75 yards per game, and now Brandon Cooks is gone, and that opens up 114 targets. And then Julian Edelman suspended, and people keep talking about Chris Hogan's wide receiver 1 for them, and he is their wide receiver 1, but Gronk's going to be their the number 1 target. And we're talking about a guy that saw 18% of the target share last year and averaged over 18.5 DraftKings points per game. So if that jumps to 24, 25%, then absolutely he can score more points than Brown, who only averaged 4 more DraftKings points per game if Gronk gets, 6 to 8% more of the targets.
If only.
Yeah, I mean, yards per route run is like outstanding too. Next dude is like 5 yards away or something, and it's like
you can't cover Gronk. I mean, he's just. But the thing is, like, I've never been a guy that goes, hard after trying to get Gronk in drafts, but he's always also been a first-round pick, right? He's always a guy that goes top 12. And, in MFLs, you can get him at the top of the 3rd round. On draft, you can get him at like 2.6 to 2.10. I mean, that's sheer value in a position where he's clearly in his own tier, and the drop-off is pretty steep pretty quickly.
If only we had a place, like some sort of database with like past performances of fantasy players that we could actually go and like, I don't know, maybe the Google of fantasy.
If only.
Wouldn't that be dope?
F.
Statistics.
We've kind of basically taken up about 15% of Elliot's time tonight, and we haven't even introduced our other 2 guests. Sort of rude. So those 2 guests are Tim and Addison. They have a pod as well, and they've got a fabulous website. We took over the internet to a degree tonight, J Mike. Kind of proud of us. Tim and Addison, how you doing, fellas?
Good, Tim.
It's kind of like our first podcast because Addison kind of looked at me. He's like, let's Tim just start talking and we'll figure out the rest later.
Exactly.
It's great. And I think the most fun is that you might be fading on Elliot, but Elliot's tats definitely aren't fading. It's awesome, ain't there? I'm just like mesmerized. I think I clicked on his picture just so I could look at his tattoos all night.
I'm just curious if he had the sleeve like before he blew up, or is this like I blew up and like here's my sleeve now, like the NBA players who like.
I think he got it when he was like 10, so maybe he had the he got like tatted at a young age, and they just.
Dude, you should see my back. I got the 10-year-old tat on my back, and then I grew, and now everyone's got giant heads.
Seriously though, this is a lot of fun. Addison and I just started recording episode 1 last week, so everything's really new. We're kind of starting to get a flow to us, and the best part about it is it's not really acting for me. I get to be stupid for an entire podcast and just kind of talk. And Addison does the hard work because he's the one that's made the website, drawn from all these different data sources. So it's easy for me because I just get to play dumb, which is just really being dumb, and he does the heavy lifting throughout the entire podcast.
That is what I do.
Like to comment?
So humble. I love it.
I was mentioned in the comments, so I had to look and see what that was going on about.
That's
His
different,
mentions are
isn't it?
blowing up.
I've never been mentioned in a chat before.
This is real.
I know
This
This
is real.
podcast is
This
awesome.
is rich.
You-
This is
you-
high level, man.
Get it together, man. Yeah,
I love how you run a website and you're just geeking out right now at the fact that your name was mentioned in a chat.
I mean, it's
mean-
right there.
I mean, man, that's wild.
See, when you run a website, you're behind everything, so nobody like really pays attention to who's behind it. They just want to see the product. So that's where I'm coming from.
fair
do you
enough.
think people feel that way about the open bar?
You guys are the rock stars here.
True.
I mean, there's a certain point with our podcast where we're just a little bigger than, I don't know, like Jay-Z and Beyonce, but
Right.
not as big as like Obama. So somewhere in between, we're just trying to find our place.
Yeah.
Addison LJ also asks Devonta Freeman or Saquon Barkley.
I just answered this in the chat because I had to answer it. But it's funny. Well, this question came from because 2 years ago when I joined, or last year when I joined DFF, and I was kind of all new to like Devi and everything like that. So somebody asked, it was a Devi trade. It was Devontae straight up for Saquon. And at that time I had said Freeman because he's going to score you points and Saquon won't. And that was just for that year. And so I honestly, now I said Saquon, but I mean, if it was a Devi, like if somebody offered me Devontae Freeman for Bryce Love, I would still take Devontae Freeman because fantasy points. Unless I totally misunderstand how to play Devi, then I might be completely wrong.
I think that's the point. When you're playing Devi, you just really want the college players, right? You don't want the players who are actually in the league scoring fantasy points. That's how that works, right?
You just want the team to look good on paper. It's like a whole nother level from Dynasty where we're just getting the best team on paper. They're playing, but they're only playing about 50% of the snaps. But let me ask you this. What if you could get a team where they played 0% of the snaps? That, my friends, is a Devi league.
Yeah, but
I'll
I mean,
take
in
one.
Dynasty, you trade players all the time for first-round picks, right? Is that any different?
I do it the opposite way.
Okay, but
Picks for players. Addison.
Yeah, first round pick for Larry Fitz. Let's do it.
Ooh,
I've what happens with Fitz this year is he's been being taken around like what, wide receiver 15 or so. I don't know, in
Is he
redraft
really?
or so.
No
Or
way.
is it
Are people
worse
finally
than
getting
that?
smart that he's actually good?
Oh, is it? I don't know what it is. That was just my guess.
he's going in the 4th round right now, but in best balls and stuff.
Uh-huh.
That's about right for redraft, I'd say.
Yeah, I
Which
mean,
is
he's
still crazy.
he's
The
got
top 10 wide
100,
receiver.
150 target floor. I mean, that's absurd volume for a wide receiver too on your team.
I think we've talked before. I mean, do you think that David Johnson cuts into that? Because I mean, he is really a huge part of that passing game, and he's kind of said it himself. He's trying to hit that 1,000 rushing and receiving. So does he cut into it? And Kirk and Ricky Seals-Jones, I guess. I don't know,
But I mean,
like,
Larry, 2 years
I
with
feel like
David
the targets
Johnson.
are better now than they were a year or even 2 years ago.
But with David Johnson, Larry had back-to-back 100-plus catch seasons, and he's got like a 6-touchdown floor based on his last 3 seasons, 6 and 9 touchdowns, over 100 catches in every season, and over 1,000 yards. I mean, I don't think David Johnson impacts that. I think Christian Kirk's ultimately best suited in the slot, and that's where Larry runs 55% of his routes as is. Ricky Seals-Jones, I mean, I like him as a tight end flyer at the end of the draft, but he's not going to cut into Larry. I mean, it's going to be Larry and David Johnson. I mean,
Yeah.
right? Antonio Brown can get 100+ catches with Le'Veon Bell on his team, and no one throws. I mean, the Steelers throw a ton of passes to Le'Veon Bell.
True. and Juju having a top 24 season last year as well. So I mean, yeah, I don't know if the targets are there with Sammy deer in the headlights, but I don't know. I feel like wide receiver. I see now he's wide receiver 14. Like I'm kind of okay with that. Like I feel like he could go maybe 2-3 spots above that, but I don't know. I think he's a really safe pick, but what was he, wide receiver 5 last year? I don't think he can get that high again.
Yeah, but there's still a ceiling built in there, right? If you're getting wide receiver 14 or wide receiver 5 last year, or wide receiver 14, that's still a value.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's ultimately like he's going right around the range. He's going right after Doug Baldwin and Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, and he's going right before Amari Cooper, Allen Robinson, Demaryius Thomas, those guys.
So then my question becomes, do we, just when it comes to the changing landscape of offensive coordinators, coaches, things of that nature, that whole regime change. So we saw Bruce Arians be super successful in multiple places. Do we not have any concern for Arizona in general, specifically speaking about Fitzgerald and David Johnson, because they're both fantastic, and Larry Fitzgerald is my favorite player, period. But are we not concerned at all as to what they'll be looking like this year?
I think my biggest concern, and boy, I don't know if anyone else agrees with me or not, Sam Bradford. I'm just hoping that Sam Bradford can make it through at least a majority this season. Josh Rosen, he may be the most pro-ready quarterback in this class. I would still argue Baker Mayfield is definitely that guy. But if Josh Rosen is really pushed into playing time this year, that's probably where my biggest concerns are. I
think that helps Larry Fitzgerald.
I think
Josh Rosen helps Larry Fitzgerald because of how he attacks the middle of the field. That's like his whole game is working the middle of the field.
You don't think that's just as much, if not more, of Sam Bradford's game than Josh Rosen.
But you're saying like if Josh Rosen steps in, it's an issue. Like the rookie quarterback's going to lean on Larry Fitzgerald, and the middle of the field guy that gets open is a safety blanket. I mean, like I don't think it matters who plays, and I don't think anyone's anticipating Sam Bradford to play an entire year.
Oh, I don't think it matters either. If you look at Larry Fitzgerald, gosh, even before Carson Palmer, look who he was playing with. John Skelton was one of his quarterbacks at one point. It's amazing that out of since 2010, he's only had 2 quote unquote down years where he's been outside of top 30, even outside of top 20 wide receiver. And looking back that far, he just had a terrible run after Kurt Warner left the Cardinals. I don't disagree that he would still be good, but I would hope Sam Bradford can last more than a few games so that there's actually some time for Josh Rosen to develop, because number one, it's not good for Rosen long term, but more than anything else, I don't think we would see the volume that Fitzgerald would have.
Why isn't it good for Rosen long term?
I personally like to see these guys sit for a little while. I don't like that the NFL is moving to this rushed, hey, you have to play year one, you have to get out there live fire, especially with a team like the Cardinals. They do have a good offensive line when they're all healthy, but they've already lost their center for a year. We've seen with the Colts, perfect example, when Andrew Luck keeps getting beat to hell, that's why these injuries crop up the way they do, because their offensive line or whatever we want to call it, that's mishandling him as a franchise quarterback. That's when these long-term issues happen.
The thing is, though, most quarterbacks play, any first-round quarterback that's kind of worth a damn plays in the year one.
Or at least can.
Yeah, I mean, the one who didn't last year was Patrick Mahomes, and that's because they had a legit really good quarterback. And, Deshaun Watson played behind the worst line in all of football last year, and he came in half a game into the season and lit up the NFL.
Addison, do you want to talk about your Watson love?
It's not mine. It's the algorithm.
Oh no! We're not separating you from the machine, Addison. That's not how this works.
Elliot, I thought you were talking to Elliot for a second, because I was about to say that this, of course, we don't get through a podcast without the mention of
Well, we were talking about rookie quarterbacks and how they can fare well. I mean, Jared Goff went through the fire and it made him better. We're talking about Carson Wentz wasn't very good his rookie year, but it made him better. I just think that guys get better by playing. I think anything in life you get better by doing. Think about anything you've ever done in your life. When you study something or when you do it, do you get better? Like which one helps you more?
I think it depends on the person. I wouldn't say that it was better for Jared Goff to be out there with a Jeff Fisher coach team than Jared Goff being out there year 2 after sitting for a year with a Sean McVay led team. I would say it depends more on the coordinator than actually the prospect.
But so Jared Goff shouldn't have played year 1 because we knew that Jeff Fisher was going to get fired. Regardless, Jared Goff kind of got hit. He got some of those jitters out. He realized he had to work on his game. You know what I mean? He had to step up. I really think that playing guys is what makes them better, personally.
And you're probably right to a degree, just because, or at least it can at least test them, in that first year. And if they've got the skills and the confidence just to go in and play like that, I think it's at least a tell for us in the first year that, hey, this guy, we don't know what goes behind the scenes as far as what coaches think or what coaches are trying to do as far as forcing them in. Andy Reid is possibly the type of guy who's going to sit someone for a while, Patrick Mahomes. But I think there's a lot of speculation with the question, but I can agree with the fact that if a quarterback's going to succeed in the first year, he's going to have a lot of confidence. That's for sure. And I don't even know if Jared Goff had a lot of confidence after that tumultuous year, that first year. So for him to come back the second year, that might've been more of a Sean McVay thing versus a Jared Goff thing. So I don't know. There's a lot of different which ways it could go.
I think there is something to be said, and Tim, I don't know if you're alluding to this without actually saying it, but I think there is something to be said for a rookie quarterback going in, getting the crap kicked out of him in year 1, and that just kind of being something that puts him on a certain path for his career, i.e. David Carr, something of that nature. Like, I don't remember what the numbers were. I don't remember it all that well. I just remember, I mean, that guy got sacked 1 billion and 1 times, and at the end of the day, he ends up seeing ghosts and he's a bust and this, that, and the third. And the same happened with Tim Couch, who could never get healthy. And I mean, I remember him vividly because of the fact that he was from Kentucky and all that good stuff. So, Elliot, I think that you're exactly right. When it comes to me in terms of doing and learning anything, yes, I need the reps, whether it's work, whatever it may be. I need the reps to be able to get better. But there is something to be said for that fact of year 1, like, you don't want to crush the guy.
Oh, you don't want to get him killed. But with Carr was going to fail regardless because of his situation, right? I mean, anytime you start a whole new franchise, like if they could have signed him year 1, year 2, he was getting sacked 80 times a year till like year 6 when he was out of the league. Yeah. That man never stopped getting hit. But I mean, I get it. You don't want your young quarterback to get murdered, especially Josh Rosen with his history. I'm not saying they have to play week 1, but I think year 1 reps and year 1 opportunity, like, you play them when they're ready. But if your quarterback's not ready at any point in his rookie year, I think it's a huge sign of concern. When you look at the guys outside of like a Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers because they were playing behind a stud, guys that teams haven't felt comfortable playing their rookie year have not really turned into anything.
Carson Palmer. He sat behind John Kitna.
Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, that's going back though, isn't that? How far back are we going?
I don't even remember. That's funny. That's funny though. I remember
that. That's just the name that came to my head as you were talking.
That's like 2000, right?
Probably, yeah.
I think the league is moving more towards like
I'm definitely not arguing.
I think the league's moving towards like, we want to win right away. We got fans to please. The Browns have finally figured that out, that they actually have fans and they actually want them to win, and have started doing things and hashtag doing things. We the Hard Knocks has been happening, and Jarvis Landry's speech. There's been some for it and against it. Tyrod Taylor seems to be starting. How long do y'all think that is, to keep on that rookie QB track? How long do you think Tyrod is starting for the Browns?
4 games or less.
And why
5
is
games
that?
or less. Because I don't think they'll win very many games and they'll turn to Baker.
Mm-hmm.
I also think Baker's better than Tyrod right now.
Oof.
Tyrod gets a lot of love, but I don't know, man. He's as average as it gets.
Well, I'm putting up their schedule right now. I want to see.
J. Mike, are you okay?
I want to see.
I am. I'm much better, thank you.
Oh boy.
Was that to my take, or were you just not feeling well?
No. I was not feeling well. Your take was A-okay in my book.
Oh my God, J.
I
Mike!
did a little bit of work on the Browns' start to their schedule, and I'll credit Warren Sharp for this. The Browns actually have the toughest 10-game slate to start the season with opposing offenses. So I completely don't disagree with Elliot that the Browns, say what you want about the upgrade in terms of Tyrod and whatever else they have there. I think they could really be looking week 5, 6, somewhere around there, right around their bye week. I think it might be week 6 or 7. Hugh getting fired and everything just in complete disarray. And I really think that may be why they brought in a guy like Todd Haley, because they may have wanted someone with some previous head coaching experience in there, so that when they move away from Hugh Jackson in the middle of the season, they at least have someone with some head coaching experience that can step in.
They have an insane schedule. Holy crap. They play the Steelers, then the Saints, then the Jets, then the Raiders, Ravens, Chargers, Bucks, Steelers, Chiefs.
Murderer's Row.
I think about half of those are
And then
possibly games they could compete in.
And that's
with,
their bye.
No disrespect, Elliot, but the Jets would be kind of a fun game to watch.
I don't know why we have to bring the Jets into this.
We might not be seeing.
How far into the
Darnold
season
versus
before you get to the Jets,
right
though?
away, but
That's their 3rd game. But it's a Thursday after playing the Saints on Sunday.
Starting 0-2 after winning
I
the
bet
game all last
they
season.
I bet people want that Mayfield versus Darnold, but I don't know.
I bet you they win. They have a realistic chance, I think, to win 3 games before their bye.
But think about it. Why you might even want to move the Tyrod thing to 3 games. Let's say they do. Let's say they start 0-2. They play the Jets on Thursday Night Football, and let's put that game at 50-50, right? Let's say they lose. They then have a long week to put in the rookie quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They're 0-3. Hugh's doing anything to try to save his job.
Right.
Josh
Gordon still isn't playing.
No.
Unfortunately.
What I find fascinating is what happens, and I think when I got back on just now, I think Elliot, you were saying Tyrod is stupendously average. So as I look here, his last 3 years in Buffalo, or his only 3 years in Buffalo, attempts wise, passing attempts 380, 436, 420. What happens if he gets, I don't know, 500 attempts, and that you couple that with his ability to rush from a fantasy perspective? Like, isn't that pretty close to striking gold with where he's being drafted?
Yeah, he's a better fantasy player than he is an NFL player, in my opinion, because of that rushing upside. But that's kind of what his game is. His game's not a high-volume guy. Even when you watch him drop back, I mean, he's one of the longest time to throw guys in the NFL. He takes a high number of sacks. He takes care of the football, but it's also because he won't take any chances. But absolutely. But, I mean, right now you're drafting Tyrod in the last round anyway.
Right.
But when it comes to quarterbacks, man, there's so many talented guys at the end of the draft this year. Right? Trubisky's in an amazing spot with the Bears. Woof.
I just don't like Trubisky, but go ahead. Yeah, your point still stands, definitely.
Right. I mean, but he's still athletic quarterback in a system with pace and weapons. That's kind of what
Yes.
you're looking for. Blake Bortles is a woof too at football, but that guy scores fantasy points, right? I mean, these guys are at the end of the draft. Ryan Tannehill's been a guy that runs and has thrown for over 4,000 yards multiple times, and he's going in the last rounds of the draft. I mean, the quarterback position is by far the deepest in fantasy football.
Yeah, I was running through the top 24 being drafted, and I didn't really get to one that I necessarily disliked. Maybe Bobby's boy, Case Keenum.
Oh, dude, he's so bad at football, man. I don't know why we're doing this. Why is this Case Keenum thing? Like, I understand he was good for half the year with the Vikings and then very mediocre to the point where the coaching staff talked about benching him after the end of every game. But, like, it's not just Jeff Fisher where Case Keenum sucked. Case Keenum sucked in Houston as well. I mean, I don't know. I'm out on the Case Keenum stuff.
I'm with you as far as the Houston. I think he was just part of a good system in Minnesota. I remember Houston quite a bit, being frustrated watching a lot of those games. He just couldn't really throw the deep ball and get it there. Or just isn't all that accurate. So I think it was definitely system associated, and all of a sudden
talent
now he's
around
gonna
him
be a
too,
top
right?
5 QB.
Thielen, Diggs, Rudolph. I mean, that's about as good of a three. I don't want to say that. As good of a core weapons as you can come up with.
Yeah.
Is that the best wide receiver tandem in the NFL?
I was just about to ask.
Thielen and Diggs. I know no one loves Thielen and everyone loves Diggs.
Right.
I love them both. I don't feel like you have to choose. You can just love them all.
Wouldn't that be amazing if people could just accept that two people are both allowed to be
That
good?
they might just-
That would be the greatest thing that ever happened to the fantasy community. If we could just admit Julio and Brown are good, and who cares who's better?
You think Juju and Brown are close to that?
Say what?
Juju and Brown.
I was going to say that's like kind of nearly the only competition. Like last year with Cooper and Crabtree, that was solid. Thomas and Sanders, I think, is good.
I think Landry Gordon should
Jones
be in
and
the
Tate.
discussion.
Landry and Gordon, sure. Maybe.
Doesn't Gordon need to
I
play
think there's
football
something
before we
there.
include
Yeah, I think
Gordon?
there's a little.
I think
proof needed,
If we're being honest, Gordon and Diggs are very similar players for me because both have insane potential and neither have met it yet.
Yeah, but they've not met it for different reasons. We've seen Diggs on the football field participate in the last 3 years. And we've seen Gordon play, 4 games? Gordon hasn't crushed on an NFL field in like 5 years.
In 5 years.
It's insane.
But his ceiling is still there, though. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's more. I don't know. I feel like there's a much better chance that. And even
Plus
if we're going to compare them, Thielen's a much better player than Jarvis Landry.
I was about to say the exact opposite. Landry's better than Thielen.
No
I
way.
love it. I love it.
I mean, Landry's like probably the best receiver at his role in the NFL, but when you put Thielen in a slot, Thielen still dominates, and Thielen dominates on the outside.
Can we get an open bar bet for this season, guys, between y'all two?
Yep.
I just want to record this. So for this season,
It's being recorded, J Mike.
done. Awesome. Chris, you've got Thielen, Addison, Landry. Perfect. You can continue your argument now.
Well, it's not an argument. I just, I think that Thielen is probably the most underappreciated receiver in the NFL. He's one of the best route runners. He can get vertical. There's not much he really can't do, and he continues to prove it year in, year out. I mean, he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns, but he also doesn't get a ton of red zone work. So
I think you just described Jarvis Landry. Did you not?
Landry does not get vertical.
I mean, that's true. I'll give you that.
I mean, Devontae Booker averaged more yards per target than Jarvis Landry did last year.
Yeah.
That's a stat for you right there.
In a shitty offense, I think he had.
That was
No,
a historically bad yards per target.
no. I think Jarvis Landry is the best receiver in the NFL at his role. But I think Thielen's role is more valuable.
Do you think? But I mean, maybe we haven't seen Landry. Like, is there? We've kind of talked about Landry before. Is there a way that if he gets in a system with Haley, who's been with Antonio Brown, and I mean, is there that they kind of are similar athletically. Like, is there a possibility to where Landry starts getting a better average depth of target and runs deeper routes? I mean, he can run the routes. So is it possible for him to kind of get into that Antonio Brown mold? Or is that too much? Too much sauce?
Too much sauce.
Is it too much sauce for us to expect Jarvis Landry to end up like Antonio Brown?
Fine. Open bar bet. Jarvis Landry versus Antonio Brown. Fucking book
I don't know what
it.
to say.
Can we? Are open bar bets for money?
They haven't been yet, but
I'll take Antonio Brown for any amount of money over Jarvis Landry.
And you're gonna have to provide a large handicap for me.
I think this is going to be fun though. In that this will be a fun test case in Cleveland in terms of seeing a guy like Jarvis Landry. They just paid the man $16 million a year, right? So is it going to be a case where, and Tim, I think you're as plugged in as anyone to the Cleveland heartbeat. If they use him specifically the way that he was used in Miami, I feel like that's going to be a travesty. Like that's going to be shameful.
So just to confirm, we're not worried that Hugh Jackson messes this up. Nobody's worried about that.
I'm
because
willing
Haley's
to
calling the plays.
He gets canned quick. Something going on behind the scenes with the Browns wire that I'm actually going to be writing up is I'm going to start the Hugh Watch. I made that recommendation today because I just don't think, looking at this team as a whole, John Dorsey, think what you want about Sashi Brown and also think what you want about what John Dorsey is doing. If he starts this season 0-3, 0-4, he's gone. There's just no way that he can stick around through that. John Dorsey cannot save face with this fan base after going 1-32 and then starting the third season with this guy as the head coach with another 0-3 to 0-5. That just can't happen. And that's why I said at the beginning, bringing in Todd Haley, and I don't think Greg Williams has the backing to really step into that head coaching role. I think Todd Haley would be the pick as interim head coach. And also, they don't want to disrupt, and this will go back to Baker Mayfield, in my opinion. They don't want to disrupt him year one. And that may be the ultimate tragedy story in this whole thing. I think Baker will be fine no matter what. But can you imagine being drafted number 1 overall and then going into year 2 with having gone through a head coach, an interim head coach, and then now another head coach? Because I don't really think Todd Haley would be the guy. It's just something that's been going through my mind, and that's why I'm going to start the Hugh Watch. I just don't understand why they didn't get rid of Hugh Jackson going into this season. What JJ Zachariason did a podcast on it saying that the Browns should have won 2 or 3 games at least last season, and they just had utter breakdowns at the end of games. The fact that there's just so much backing, the probability of the Browns losing this many games, it's just so unrealistic, and it's damn near impossible. I don't know how it's happened, and it can't go on. I live in the area. I wasn't even a Browns fan when Hugh Jackson was hired as a coach. I loved the hiring because he was a Cincinnati guy. I liked him when he was with the Raiders. I felt for the Browns every time they had a loss, but this is just getting too much.
Wait, so I just need to jump in one thing here because it sounds like you're going through a lot of pain, but it also sounds like you just became a Browns fan.
I did. So I don't know if anyone really cares about my story watching football or not. I think Addison and I talked about it a little bit. I never watched
moving
football.
on. All right, good talk. So let's no, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Tim.
I never watched football growing up. I never watched football growing up until I was a junior and senior in high school. That's when I actually watched my first game. It wasn't even an NFL game. It was the Ohio State Miami Hurricanes national championship game. That was my first exposure to football at all. And I remember going over to my best friend's house, and they were all Ohio State fans. And I didn't realize what I was doing because they went around the room before the game even started. And they were like, okay, who's going to win this game? And of course, everyone said Ohio State, and then I was the last one to go. I'm like, oh, I'll pick the Hurricanes. I think it's going to be a blowout. And the mother of my best friend, she had one of those like foam bricks, and she threw it and she chucked it right at my head and bashed me. So that was my first real football exposure. Just the passion they had in that room, and it was a lot of fun. And then I slowly started watching a game here and there through college, and it wasn't until I was actually out of college and starting to work that I was introduced to fantasy football, and that's where I even started watching football, period. I needed that sense of camaraderie. I had a tweet that I put out. I'm very awkward in public. I don't handle social situations very well. I'm an introvert, but this gave me an opportunity to click with people and really speak with people a little bit more and even share my thoughts, which was really unusual for me. And that's how I even started watching football in the first place. So my fandom never really lied completely with one team, but until recently, where I've gravitated more towards the Browns because they have all these young players. It's an exciting team. I love Baker Mayfield. He was my favorite quarterback coming in the draft. Nick Chubb, Jabril Peppers, he's man without a position, but I love him. Denzel Ward. It's just all these things I gravitated towards the team. So it wasn't as much my location, but as a person kind of maturing in football, that's where I went. Sorry, really long story, and I don't even know if anyone cared.
Well, geez, Tim, give us a chance to react first.
All right. Don't you speak for me, Tim. Don't you speak for me.
That's a fascinating story, dude. I mean, that sounded like something that would be on a backyard banner about back in the day. Just shout out to Matt Harmon with that one. Just to get into something to where you can share it with everyone else is great, man.
Fact. I'm curious of this. So when it comes to currently, when we look at the NFC, if you had to put your money on anybody just coming out of the NFC to win it all, who would it be?
Can I pick the Patriots and go with the AFC?
No, you may not.
That's the one I feel good about. I'd pick the Saints if I had to put my money on someone. I'd pick the Saints.
The NFC is so much fun. Like, this is going to be absurdly fun this year.
Yeah, Saints are so good.
I picked the Saints.
That's such a. If I can't
Really? Wow.
If I can't
Mike,
pick the
what was the
Saints, I'm
question?
picking the Vikings.
Okay, so Tim and Gabe, give me 1 sec. Tim, you said you're taking the Vikings?
Yeah, if I can't pick the Saints,
No, you can. You can if you want.
it's such a smart pick. I mean, I would love to see Drew Brees make it back one more time and get one more championship. That's just kind of that. I don't know if he would walk away after he did it, but that would be such an amazing story.
Got you. Gabe, the question was, who are you taking in the NFC to come out of the NFC?
So y'all pick the NFC Championship game teams. That's creative.
If that's what you want.
In fairness to the Saints, though, they should have been in the NFC Championship game. Instead, they had like the worst collapse ever on one play.
Shout out to Marcus Williams. No, I just find
He's
I
having
find
a nice
the NFC.
camp. Okay.
I mean, that's what they say. That's what they said about Brandon Cooks for 3 years before they traded him too.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's a fact. Opinion of him, what it is, it's a fact. So when we look at the NFC, I just think the arms race was awesome to watch them. Obviously, the Rams got Sue and Sheldon Richardson ended up going to the Vikings, so on and so forth. Like it got really fun. The NFC is awesome. So you've got literally like 4 teams that can come out, I think.
The AFC is so gross, and the NFC is. But the NFC, no, you're right. I mean, the Rams, the Eagles, the Saints, and the Vikings are the class, and then you add in teams like the Packers, the Lions, the Falcons.
Yeah, somebody's not going to make the playoffs out of those teams you just said. That's
I
you
think
just
you can
said
only
that-
have 6 teams in the playoffs, right? One from each division and then 2 wild cards. Is that right?
Which, I mean, even think about the quarterbacks, right? Like they're, you got teams like Russell Wilson, the quarterbacks like Russell Wilson that aren't expected to make the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is looking like a wild card. Matthew Stafford, Eli Manning. I mean, he's got 2 Super Bowl rings, right? He's fantastic. That's sarcasm in case people don't pick up on that. NFC is going to be really fun. Every week there should be good games.
No love for Eli?
Eli's not good at football. He's not been good at football in years. But he is better than Davis Webb, man. That guy sucks.
Not very good. Lauletta, the Richmond Spider, though, he creeping. He building his web of fans.
Is this where we say the biggest mistake in the draft was the Giants taking Saquon Barkley?
Ooh.
I don't know.
Spicy.
Sam Darnold looks
Seems to be
amazing.
quite the
Sam
take.
Darnold looks amazing. And granted, it's one game, but I'm going to be a Jets fan and get it out of control. So, I think the Giants made a really good decision taking a running back second overall and letting the Jets get Sam Darnold.
We do not see you currently wearing your Baker Mayfield headband anymore. Elliot, is that a soapbox that you've come down from?
Yeah, I took it off draft day. I don't know where the thing went.
You bought 2, though, right?
I have a black one that you
2-pack?
don't tie around and the white one you do tie around, which makes me look like Karate Kid. So I'll find that for Halloween, and then until then, it's retired.
Did you guys see Roethlisberger's in concussion protocol?
No.
Okay.
It's all right. He'll be fine.
I did just see on Hard
He'll be
Knocks
fine.
that the reason Corey Coleman was traded was because he asked Hugh Jackson for a trade. He was demoted to second team, and he said, "If you don't want to play me, why don't you just trade me?"
Well,
Ooh.
for the record, no other team really cared about Corey Coleman either if they gave up a 20,
Yeah,
20. Seventh rounder.
pick.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh,
I was way off on that assessment that I thought it could have been anywhere near a second-round pick. No.
Whoa. You really thought second round pick for a guy that doesn't play?
Well,
doesn't
to be
play.
fair, I was talking about a rookie draft pick, and then we kind of discussed furthermore that it would be somewhere between a second and a sixth, I guess. But sixth was far closer. And
The best way to
but a
get
seventh
NFL
round
talent
pick,
is
I
just
mean,
trade 5th through 7th rounders for guys every year, and you're going to get loaded talent.
yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but
I
now
don't,
people are buying Coleman late in drafts. I'm not, but people are. There's so many good late round receivers this year.
yeah.
Like give me Mike Wallace or Ryan Grant over Corey Coleman all day long this year.
Especially with Alshon's injury. You got to think Mike Wallace gets a bump there. Nobody's talking about it, but you have to think that that's going to be a nice.
I think
nice
Alshon will be
benefit.
fine. I think
Didn't
Alshon's
the report come out that it was kind of a botched report of sorts? I don't know.
Ian
Well,
Rappaport
he did have surgery during the offseason.
right, but the question is whether or not he's going to miss a game or two, not 6.
Addison, are you okay?
No, okay. That was just really funny. You're just like, wasn't there a report that there was a
A
botched
botched report.
report?
A botched
something.
report.
Botched. I don't even remember how many times I said botched. I was trying to.
Botched. It was just funny.
Botched. Well, thanks for chiming in, Addison. We've missed you.
I'm still here.
Thank goodness.
Addison, do you want to go record our podcast since you're not really contributing much here tonight?
Yikes, bruh.
And that's the guy you started a podcast with. All right.
I'm a
again-
little curious about the Ryan Grant thing, and not necessarily him specifically, but just what let's say Andrew Luck plays 16 games. We can probably, T.Y. Hilton stays healthy. He's probably a lock for a top 24, maybe top 15, top 10, whatever kind of receiver. What else is there? Is that the only thing that exists with the type of, quarterback that Andrew Luck is and that fucking mustache, or is that it?
I'll hop in since no one else spoke.
Oh, shit.
I'll take Eric Ebron in the 13th or 14th round. And I'll take Ryan Grant in the last round. Give me his wide receiver 2, and I think give me his athletic tight end.
I say Ebron is the wide receiver 2 there.
Yeah, there have been reports that he split out
Are we
wide.
forgetting about Jack Doyle?
Oh my god.
Why are we love?
Not
I
my
mean,
fault.
Tight end 6 last year, no big deal.
I mean, that's
No big deal.
Do we have another open
after
bar
the top
bet?
3 tight ends. I mean, they were all kind of I don't know, but Jack Doyle also did that with Jacoby Brissett, right?
Exactly. Look at the
Brissett targeted tight ends. Well, Brissett targets tight ends a crazy amount.
That's true. He had a 22% target share last year, which is absolutely ridiculous.
That's higher than Gronk.
Yeah. I think he had one less target than TY last year, something like that.
What?
Something ridiculous.
Hold on. Let me verify that.
You can go to
the wide receiver 2 under Luck.
Ty didn't play all the games, did he?
I don't know about that. But the wide receiver 2 under Andrew Luck actually sucks.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I've been looking back at Andrew Luck's history here. He's never had two top 24 wide receivers.
Oh my gosh.
But you're not paying. You're not paying.
I know. Yeah. He's, what is he, wide receiver 78 or something? So, I mean, that's totally fine. And
part of that too is like whenever we do something like that, right? It's always important to remember who the player was too. Like Dante Moncrief was catching 8 touchdowns a year, was this athletic freak. Apparently, he never showed it on the football field. That wasn't actually good at football, but he still was scoring touchdowns, and he had playable weeks. And if I can get a guy in the last round of a draft who has playable weeks, I'm doing well.
He was wide receiver 75.
You know, Addison, using your own website against you, something you didn't bring up. In 2016 and 2014, Andrew Luck had 2 top 20 tight ends.
top 20 tight ends.
2016?
I'm looking at your website, so unless you're giving... Yep.
Tight end 2, it says 20. I'm looking at it. 22.
22. Sorry.
That's not in the 20s. That's not in the top 20, Tim.
But okay, but who cares about a top 20 tight end also at the same time?
Facts.
Yep.
Like,
So,
top
yeah.
10, maybe 15 is relevant, or just stream at that point. But
So
top-
yeah, in 2014, he did have 2 top 20 tight ends.
Yeah.
So the higher tight end is going to be Jack Doyle, and the lower tight end is going to be Eric Ebron, right?
I think Eric Ebron will outscore Jack Doyle this year.
I'm with Elliot on that one.
I don't know about that one. This is his make or break season.
I mean, he was tight end 4 the last 4 weeks of the season. I mean, that's the other thing is whenever we talk about rankings, last year it was Gronk, Ertz, and Kelsey, and then everybody else.
Yep.
Right? Like Jimmy Graham was a fullback. I mean, all he did was, catch passes inside the 5-yard line.
Who said it on Twitter? Somebody called him a goal
Rich
line
Rebar.
running back.
Rich Rebar
Yeah,
called
yeah.
him that. Like that dude made, I think he had like 8 targets for 15 yards down the field. Like he's the air yards numbers on Jimmy Graham show that he's kind of a below average athlete now at the tight end position. And he was tight end 4 last year in standard scoring. I mean, I really think that there's a tier of tight ends in the top 3, and then it's kind of everybody else.
Mhm.
Can we go back real quick to the fact that Jack Doyle had 1 less target than TY last year?
Did you bet that?
I'm sorry. I did. That is mind blowing to me. Wow.
And
That's
people,
true. So
the
that's
thing-
true.
the thing with Jack Doyle is people are going to look at that and they're going to say, well, he's going to have a massive target share drop because there's no way he's going to get back into the 20s again, which I will agree with. There's no way. But they're going to be, how much more efficient are those targets going to be from Andrew Luck?
I mean, but still, like
Doesn't matter, though,
he
right?
had a 74% catch percentage last year, so he had 108 targets and 80 receptions, which is still crazy.
And the year before with Luck, he was at what? He was at 13% target share. And the number 2 tight end was at 8.
Man, yeah, I mean, yeah, year before T.Y. Hilton has 155, and the next closest I'm pretty sure was no. Let me go back and look. The next closest wasn't even half of those targets. So it was like 75 targets to Ty's 155. Like that's
Jack
absurd.
Doyle's A-dot is also garbage. With Andrew Luck in 2016, it was 6.53 yards.
No disrespect to Mama Doyle. I'm sure she's a wonderful lady. But yeah,
wasn't that what Jarvis Landry did last year?
Yeah, and then we just established how Adam Thielen's better than him.
He was wide receiver 4 last year.
yes.
So
I'm here for it. I'm here. Tim, did you ever weigh in Thielen versus Landry?
I'd rather not weigh in.
Oh, boo.
I would definitely go Thielen. The overall game of Thielen is definitely more impressive. And in terms of just this season, I'd much rather take the opportunity for Thielen and Diggs kind of being a bottleneck of targets. It's going to go to those two versus whatever's happening in Cleveland with Landry, Gordon, Joku, Johnson, Chubb. I mean, there's just so many mouths to feed there. I definitely don't think Landry's anywhere close to the 150 targets he's averaged through his career.
It's gonna be so fun to watch play out. Nobody puts Addy in a corner.
You guys thrive on controversy on this show.
Look, I don't make anyone give their takes. I just ask questions.
So Jack Doyle or T.Y. Hilton this year?
What's the handicap on that one?
Hey, look, Jack Doyle out-targeted him. I think it's fair that there is no handicap.
One less target.
I can't. That's wow. You're right, Elliot. That's crazy. The fact of how much he was targeted last year.
Yeah, that's due for regression. Like that's absurd, right? And listen, but like Moncrief posted a 13% touchdown with Luck the year before and was a red zone weapon. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm doing best balls. I'm not doing redrafts right now. And Ryan Grant in the last round is someone I want some exposure to because he's going to have one or two big weeks.
Best ball then sounds like your reference there.
Any ADP I talk about right now is best ball. I mean, we're drafting. I mean, at this point, I've done about 200 of them, and it's early in August. So I mean,
is that enough?
No, I'll probably end up around the 350 range. But that's just because draft's addicting, and I have a problem. You know, I have enough shares of everybody I need to have shares. Nelson Aguilar, man. Nelson Aguilar and Kenny Stills. Those are two guys I want as much of as I can get.
I do not. Let's talk about Aguilar because I don't like that at all.
Well, you're stupid.
This is what it's come to. Okay, where are we at? About 10 minutes left of Elliot. J. Mike, have you been clocking the Elliot time?
We are inside of 10 minutes. That's correct.
Okay, perfect. So what were you saying about Nelson Aguilar, Elliot?
I mean, what is there not to like?
Don't you? I just think the touchdowns were a bit much.
He was also one of the most efficient deep receivers in the NFL, and the Eagles didn't target him that much, and that should improve this year.
This is just your question.
If Alshon Jeffrey if there's anything with that, I think that there's definitely a target to be had there. But I still just think that Jeffrey and Ertz and maybe the return of Sproles, and if either of those running backs can get in the game, I don't know. It just seemed like it was for Wentz, it was a very high touchdown.
No, they were incredibly efficient. They were incredibly efficient. They were also, in order to be that efficient,
both have to regress to the mean over the course of their career. Likely maybe next season, and I think that correlates to Aguilar's touchdown production too. So I don't know.
Yeah, but he's also targeted on 23% of Philly's red zone targets.
But a lot of his points, as far as fantasy points go, a lot of his points came from those touchdowns.
But he also was one of the best deep receivers in the NFL on a per target basis. So if that increases, then that should help as well.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a guy that's going in the 8th or 9th round. You're not paying 6th round price for him. I mean, everybody's an at cost player.
What wide
So-
receiver is that off the board? Aguilar. Is that around 30, 35 or so probably?
I,
Oh, that's deeper than that. 44. Oh, that's not terrible. Yeah. It's not expensive. I'll give you that, but I'm just I guess I'm less a fan of the player than
he's also, I mean, I'm friends with a couple of Eagles beats, and they're telling me that, I mean, obviously hasn't practiced this week, but he says he's fine and will play the regular season. There aren't any concerns. But before that he was crushing, and that they expected him to kind of replicate, and build off last year, not regress to what he was before that.
Mm-hmm.
Quick shout to the chat real quick. We shouted them out earlier, but golly, we had so much action. I think it's because we've had the all-star of guests tonight, the Tim Torch Addison duo, which Addison, still not sure why you've been so disrespectful in terms of turning down our invitation to the show, but thanks for finally yielding. Appreciate that. And of course, with Elliot coming back on and bringing his what do you call your flock, Elliot, on Twitter? What do you call them?
I didn't realize I had a flock.
Okay.
You mean I call them my followers, but like I don't have like an army of people that come to my defense. I have more people that tell me I'm an idiot than I do that come to my defense. That's what you're referring to. Like you can hop in my mentions and tell me I'm an idiot, and no one's gonna be like, yo, not Elliot. Elliot's the man. That's not a thing that
Can we
happens.
call them the Christies?
Yes. The Christies. Perfect.
I mean, I don't approve of that message. But if you want to go for it.
Definitely happening.
It's a good thing you're not sponsoring it. All right, the Christies. Perfect. So in the chat, the First Lady came through early on. Casey, what up? Spoonie, LJ, Tyler Gee from F3. Kenny's in the building. Stephanie's in the building. The Dynasty Dummies were here. Derek, one half of the Gut Feels crew, came through, and he said what might be the most perfect thing about our podcast, Gabe, and I posted it on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know if you saw it yet or not, but he said, and I quote, "The open bar is the centerpiece to the FF universe.
Oh,
It's where everyone comes together. Big, Elliot Christ. Small, John
also
McCann.
Elliot Christ.
To, ju-
I
to
was
just
told to use
chill and
confidence.
to just chill and have a good time shooting the shit," end quote. And I like that's us. Anyway, I thought that was fun.
Thank
Jake
you for
Anderson.
that.
Yes.
Who'd you say, Derek?
Yeah, that was Derek, our northern friend. What up?
A.
What up,
Your
A?
favorite podcast.
Holla at us. David Berger was here. Shout out to him and his new pod. Spoonie is in the building. And Spoonie had an awesome question. Spoonie, aka Bradley Harrison, but I like to call him Little Spoon. He he had a fantastic question.
I'd like you to say that.
The big homie Lil Spoon says, oh, and Josh Jordan, what up, Double J? Lil Spoon asks, and this is in Dynasty, so we got to transition our minds for a moment. Is Mr. Darius Geis, quote unquote, still your numero dos running back off the board in rookie drafts?
There's still rookie drafts?
There are. It's crazy. Yes, there are. I still get asked about rookie drafts at least once a day right now. And I don't think there's a reason for there to be a rookie draft right now. The one thing I'll say to people, if you like Darius Geis, then take him and place him on the IR and enjoy turning that waiver wire spot. That's absolutely fine. Because something I read, I can't remember who put the tweet out, but they said, take Darius Geis, sell him to the highest bidder, and then get him back halfway through the season. And at first I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. I could see someone doing that. But if you have an IR spot, there's no reason for you to do it. And also, what makes you think that someone's going to turn around and loosen that vice grip if they're willing to pay for Darius Geis right now? I liked Geis through the process, and I would still be willing to take him as my 102. I still think he's a stellar prospect. He is exactly what the Washington Redskins ordered in terms of a bell cow back. It's just he caught a bad break.
Nobody else?
It's I mean, it's hard to say in Dynasty. Kind of alluded to it earlier. As just far as an NFL franchise, like it's really hard to just sit and wait to win. I mean, I think it's one of the most difficult things in playing it. You definitely want to compete every year. It's not always possible, but yeah, I think Geis was really mixed around, but somewhere between 2 and 5 as far as the overall picks. So it's I don't think it was consensus that he was 2. There were times in the offseason where it was like all the way Chubb. And then there were, yeah. And then there were times.
Never a halfway Chubb.
Is there such thing as a full Chubb? Like a Chubb is by definition not full, right? Or you know what? No, it's too much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's Rashad Penny was like competing with Saquon Barkley to be the number 1 overall guy. I mean, it just moved around so much, and now I guess people are kind of forgetting how much it changed, and now people are kind of coming back and saying, well, he's injured, so now he's like they kind of want him to be worth the 102 or something because he had such a great draft process and just seemed happened to be this good guy, even though he dropped in the draft and these things. I don't know. I'd play the narrative as to like, no, he's not worth the 102. He's worth like the 110, 112. Like that's what I'm giving you a late first. I'm giving you a projected early second for homie. And I'd take advantage of that, but I wouldn't want to say out loud that he's 102. But I don't think that he is necessarily either. I think that it's a changing game. Even in Dynasty, I mean, you had Alvin Kamara last year as around a 112 or so. And now if you were to redraft all these rookies, he'd be the 101. I mean, it's just kind of bonkers how things switch like that. So you're trying to say that Geis is the 102 if we were to redo things next year? I don't think so. You should try and take advantage of something for a late first. And I don't know. I don't think he's 102. I think it legitimately hurts his value.
I agree with you. I would take Penny over him pretty easily. Like, Penny's going to play.
Yeah. I
know everyone's excited about Chris Carson and Pete Carroll talking up a running back because we don't like to listen every single year to the way he does that. But they drafted Penny in the first round running back to play, other than David Wilson.
Neck problems.
Yes. But I'm saying, like, Penny's going to see the field. And like you just mentioned with Kamara, with Hunt, when running backs play, they just need volume. That's all you need to score points. And when Penny plays this year, his stock is going to go above Geis when Geis doesn't. I mean, people are always reactive. That's what they do.
Yeah, Geis will be the equivalent of probably a late first or early second next year, I would think. Just whether guys move up or not. I mean, and the wide receivers too. DJ Moore moving up if he does, or Sutton if he gets his opportunity, kind of because he will. But I don't know. I just don't think it's fair to say 102 right now. I think an injury hurts a player. He doesn't get to play. He doesn't have volume, so you should try to buy that for a cheap price. You can say in your mind that he's the 102 for next year, but certainly not right now.
I find that so interesting. Just the two thought processes, like what Tim just threw out. And Addison, you started saying something. What were you gonna say?
Well, first of all, Geis has been my 1.02 since the start of this whole rookie process, and I never really thought that it was a question. For me, after Chubb's combine, I said, okay, he's now the 1.03 after, Geis and then Saquon. So Geis never left the conversation for me as the 1.02, and he still hasn't left the conversation for me because I don't think all the other running backs after him are as talented as he is. Geis is a freak and he's a monster, and he's going to come back next year with a vengeance. And when you say that his value is going to tank, maybe not tank, but it's going to drop between now and next year. I will argue that with Dalvin Cook, who hasn't played since last September, but has somehow managed to gain value since last year's rookie drafts last summer.
The snapshot.
4 games, though.
The snapshot.
He did play 4 games, so I will give you that one. He did play 4 games, so we've seen him.
So if you want to go off of that,
right. But what I'm saying is if we were to say Geis, his next year will be his rookie year, and he would be my 1.01 next year, and that's just how it would be for me. I don't love Bryce Harper. I think like a lot of people do. And then all these other wide receivers, I'm not taking a rookie wide receiver. I'd much rather have the rookie running back. So to me, he was the 1.02, 1.03, 1.04. Sure, this year he's going to be the 1.01 for me next year. And whether or not, however you get there, might be different for other people than what I'm saying too. But even if you just make the comparison, even though it's kind of apples to oranges with Dalvin Cook, I mean, people are going to say next summer, dude, remember that Geis was in the conversation for the 1.02 last year, and now he's being taken and as a mid first this year. That's not going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. So for me, it's always been Geis. It will continue to be Geis, and I will buy any Geis for whatever price you want to give me that's cheaper than the 1.02. I saw today a trade, Sony Michel or Geis in a 19-second, which I thought was utterly ridiculous because I would take Geis over Sony Michel straight up. So the second was free. And
but Michel's going to play this year.
Sure, but I'm not worried about that.
I think.
But how can we not be worried about Geis' injury history either? I mean, he was banged up all of last year with the ankle, and 2, his running style of being violent and taking on guys has historically led to running backs getting banged up.
Right. So, I mean, I get that, but he's gonna have production for as long as he's in the NFL. I would argue if that's going to be 2 years or 3 years or however long it's going to be. You can't say that about Geis and then not say the same things about Fournette, more injury prone. Just because of the soft tissue stuff, like the ACL doesn't scare me as much as this lingering like soft tissue stuff for Fournette.
Yeah, I don't like Fournette either.
So I think I'm not about Fournette as much either. A lot of people really do like him.
You know what? Both turds can kick rocks. Both of you turds can kick rocks with your Saxonville hate. I don't appreciate it one bit on this.
You remember the time where Leonard Fournette went like 6 games without breaking a tackle?
Elliot, I'm traveling to New York and I'm punching you in the face.
Well, good luck because I live in Jersey, so good luck finding me.
Dang it.
take a shot at Darnold, J-Mike. Do it.
Darnold sucks. No, he's pretty good. Never mind.
Damn it.
Remember when Trace McSorley had better college stats than Sam Darnold?
Trace McSorley.
Dang.
Dang. Can I please have quarterbacks that won't be drafted in next year's draft for 100, please? God, Trace McSorley. That's funny.
I'm just saying.
You know what?
You can look up the stats.
Your facts are facts. You're right.
So rookie draft right now, there's a rookie draft after this podcast, and Saquon goes 101. Geis is really going 102.
He is if I'm the 102.
It's just I've seen some recently post injury, some rookie drafts ended up at like 109 or something. I'm not sure if it would be taken that far for me, but it's a difficult mindset to be in, to not want to, because there are players in the first round that can affect your team in that first year and possibly be worth more than Geis next year. And really, like, just like what we're saying, that if they play, they are going to probably hold at least a little bit more value than you'd think. I don't know. It's yeah. J-Mike said it's interesting. Yeah.
So on that trade pool, the one that I mentioned with Sony and Geis in the second, who brought it up? I forget who brought it up. But someone said they would much rather they would take the Geist side and get the free second. And then if you are still in win now mode because you're making the argument that Sony Michel is going to play this year, thus giving you more production than Geist, why would you not then just go and look at the Marshawn Lynch owner and say, I'll give you that 19 second, and then you have that point production for this year. So then basically you're trading Sony for Geist, who is an upgrade over Sony, a running back, in my opinion, and then you're going to get the production back in Marshawn Lynch.
I mean, that's a huge leap, though. Isn't that a leap that the guy who has Marshawn Lynch, who's probably built to win now, is looking to trade him for a second-round pick?
I mean, maybe you can probably make that argument. I don't know. I mean, it is owner dependent, but why not try and do that? You know, why not get that second? Maybe trade that second for Lamar Miller. Somebody's going to hate Lamar Miller enough in a lot of leagues and do that. You know, why don't you take that second and go, grab, I don't know, Isaiah Crowell. And then I know you're a Jets fan and you're not a Crowell truther. I don't think, Elliot.
No, but I like guys that have vision.
But still, like the production, I think the production will be there.
I think Crowell is going to see like 10 to 12 carries a game and do a whole lot of nothing this year. I think that's a 3 running back backfield.
Yeah, I don't think there's a top 24 running back on that team. Not really worth
like, especially people are talking about dynasty or redraft. Good luck playing Crowell week to week. Because that team's not going to win a lot of games. Yeah. Powell's going to be very involved in the first and second down work splitting with Crowell. And McGuire should be back, within the first month of the season. So that's a lot of
Thomas Rawls.
Okay, we're not bringing up people. We're not Game of Thrones and the Ironborn. Okay, that man is dead, and we don't need to speak about him anymore.
Spoiler alert.
But apparently, Thomas Rawls has been like unspeakably bad. Oh, by the way, the Jets running back to own in Dynasty, I think, is Trenton Cannon.
Oh yeah,
I like him. He's like
who?
Trenton Cannon.
Okay,
he's a deep sleeper, pass catching guy that could get a role for this team. I mean that's a 5th round flyer, so if he sucks.
RB 87 coming off the board, definitely okay to swing on that.
Like I think a lot of it would have to do with how your team is too in terms of taking guys 102. Because not every team that picked 102 is necessarily a bad team, right? Or they could have traded for that pick. And whenever you answer any of these questions, it's so league and owner dependent.
No, and I that's incredibly fair. I just think that it's really interesting to think about how much, or rather, how much more highly we value the 17 class running backs now than we did a year ago.
Did we?
Well, let me say
Weren't
this.
People losing their minds over the possibility of getting Geist and Barkley?
No. I don't mean in comparison to this class. I mean a snapshot from the 17 class before they were rookies to the 17 class now going into their second year.
Oh, sorry.
So when we're looking at
this group, 5 rookies in the top 24, or
bingo. All of a sudden, all of these guys have top 3 to 4 round startup, top 3 round startup value in a lot of instances. So Addison, I get it if you think that, hey, Geist is a super talent and he's fantastic and he'll come back stronger and Jay Gruden will use him and all those good things. But at the same time, that I think that diminishes what we're about to experience in terms of being able to watch this group play, because what they actually show us could be, I mean, we don't know. I don't know. We don't know. So it could be awesome, and you could be exactly right for that. But in 6 months, you might say, you know what? I love him. I love Geist, but like what they showed me is like undeniable type stuff. So it'll just be interesting to monitor. And it's 10 after 11, Gabe. So I think we've expired our time. I don't know, how much do we have to pay you for going 10 minutes over, Elliot?
I accept payments in TQE subs. So.
Well, why don't you talk about that again, Elliot?
Give it to us.
Start with the plugs here. Say some words.
For the record, that was not me saying we need to go anywhere. I just want before that.
Oh, so you want to stick around now?
So you want to talk about a second rounder for Kenny Stills, right? Huh?
Well, you're making that trade all day long, but let's talk
Wait,
about that.
wait, please. Whoa. I want to hear. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. In Dynasty, you are giving up a second to take Kenny Stills.
100 out of 100 times.
Okay, it was said in the chat. I just wanted to make sure that I was hearing you correctly.
Yeah,
That's all.
I mean, 2019 second rounders, I don't care about. But one thing with Dynasty and people in general is right now, most people believe that their team can win. So it's hard to trade. It's amazing. They can't do any serious looking at their team like, wow, I have one starting running back on my roster and all of my receivers are 50. But you know what? I think I got a shot if things fall right. So it's tough to get anything for a second rounder right now. But I think Stills in a position to match this year. So I want a lot of Stills, and I mean 17 of his last 32 games in PPR formats have been double-digit points. And he's got serious
17
upside.
of those 32 games have been without Ryan Tannehill.
Okay, but I mean, we're acting like he wasn't playing with Matt Moore and Jay Cutler, and I know Matt Moore targets him a ton, but we're also talking about Jarvis Landry leaving 160 targets and him being a better slot receiver.
A lot of targets.
Smoking Jay Cuddy.
I get that. My only problem.
Oh, it hurts so bad.
My only problem with Kenny
J-Mike.
Stills and people who say that they love Kenny Stills for this year is that nobody wants to address the fact that he is not good with Ryan Tannehill. Like, he averages 9 points per game with Ryan Tannehill over his career. Nobody wants to acknowledge that. And I'm totally fine, like, listening to you guys and you know, like, I'll take some Kenny Stills in best ball. But I think that's the only way that he's ownable, because you're not going to be able to start. I don't think any of the Dolphins wide receivers are going to be startable on any predictive or, you know, confident manner on a week-to-week basis in redraft or dynasty. And so, like, you can, I understand the argument, and I'll listen to the argument that there's 160 targets left, and, you know, Kenny Stills is the best wide receiver on that roster. But I think it's just I don't think his play style meshes with Ryan Tannehill, and I just don't think he's in for this breakout season that everybody's talking about.
I just want to know why you're yelling at us right now.
In 2016, he did see.
I'm trying not to. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Migraine, J-Mike.
In 2016, he saw 15.6% target share with Ryan Tannehill. Right, and he's a guy that makes plays. If his efficiency increases down the field, and he's a guy that gets open, I mean, his numbers could leap. And you're talking about a cheap player, right? Like this is I always talk about players at cost are really important. Like someone said they would take him in the 6th or 7th round. I was like, you're crazy. But in the 9th or 10th round, taking him over guys like, I don't know, DJ Moore this year.
His running mate.
Well, I take him over his running mate whose fingers are broken and is about to get cut, or whatever was about to happen to Devontae Parker. Seems like easy money. And then he's competing with Danny Amendola, who never makes it through a year, and Albert Wilson, who, you know, I just think he's in line for a ton of targets, and he's got a great ADOT, a lot of air yards, and, you know, if his efficiency down the field increases, which it should because he's a talented downfield receiver, I think Kenny Stills could really pay off that price tag.
Redraft, at least, wide receiver 52 coming off the board. Devontae Parker, wide receiver 43. So, I mean, I'm okay saying that neither of them are top 24 wide receivers, or like even have much of a chance to.
Wasn't Stills PPR wide receiver like 27 last year?
Don't have it with me, but
20,
I believe you.
28, 27, 28, something like that, yeah.
So we're talking about a guy was
again without Ryan Tannehill.
Right, but also now with 180 plus targets available.
True.
So
I'll take
the Tannehill downgrade for the 200 plus targets. He's not going to get 200 plus targets. I just need to make that very clear. But I'm talking about open targets on the offense. If he gets 200 plus targets, I'm going to win so much money this year.
Tim, you have to say something.
I will come back on here and then I will apologize to you if he gets 200 targets.
If he,
200 targets.
The only way he's getting 200 targets if this is Madden and I just play with it.
Tim, wait. For those that are listening via podcast form, you're missing out on the fact that right now, Tim Torch is as disgusted as I've ever seen anyone on our show in history. Tim, please fill us in. What's going on, man?
I feel like this is the level of conversation. It's just a struggle right now because people are hearing about Devonta Parker's hand injury. So Kenny Stills, I mean, it's funny he has a hand injury because he couldn't catch a damn ball to start with or stay on the field. So Kenny Stills, I think his ADP should actually start to normalize a little bit because he's the guy that they use in multiple sets. They run him out of the slot or flanker while Parker's just kind of doing his thing, not being a productive wide receiver in the NFL. So I firmly believe that Kenny Stills is undervalued. Elliot, you saying that you would throw out a second round pick for him, I think that's easily the type of play that's smart for people right now. It's similar to a guy like Marquise Goodwin. Nobody's saying that he's a good wide receiver, but for whatever reason, last year on 100-ish targets, he was, I believe, a top 20 wide receiver, especially once Jimmy G was actually plugged in the lineup. Those are the type of guys that are league winners for people right now. And we just got done putting a lot of emphasis on the rookie running, now the second year running back class that we have. So if you have a team that's front loaded with a bunch of those running backs from last year, and you're able to shore up the back end of your wide receiver core with a Kenny Stills, Marquise Goodwin, and God, I've never seen anyone actually have to throw out a first rounder for Larry Fitzgerald like Addison was saying at the beginning of the podcast. But if those guys are your wide receiver 2 through 4, God, that's such a big win for a team right now. Or if, like Elliot's talking about with best ball, those are the guys I build my teams on. If I have a team of Goodwin, Stills, I like picking up D-Jax late because of that big boom. Mike Wallace was a perfect example that we brought up earlier. If you have those big running backs to start off your draft and you're just nailing those big play wide receivers at the end, that's how I love to build my rosters. It just makes so much sense right now.
Tim, I think you nailed it. I think everything you said about how I was right was really important to say. No, but I think Stills, like I keep grabbing Stills. 2 months ago, best ball was going in the 14th round, which was amazing. Now he's going in like the 10th, and I'll get Aguilar in the 9th and Stills in the 10th. And to me, that's really high upside wide receivers at a very low cost.
Yeah,
very fair.
I think Stills could have a Marvin Jones like year this year.
Hey,
like top 10.
Oh,
if he gets 130 targets, which I think is perfectly reasonable.
I think that is too, honestly.
If he gets 130 targets, then
I mean, he had 100 last year.
So. Right. And there's so many targets opened up.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that many targets, like I don't know the numbers and probably can't look them up this fast, but like the number of receivers who didn't finish top 15 and had 130 targets, like I'm curious how often that happens. Anyhow,
Devontae Parker played 13 games and had 96 targets and Stills 103. So I mean, they could both see, if they're playing all 16, they could both see 130, 140 targets pretty easily.
The chat was saying bird alert. This is a bird alert. In which I replied,
flipped off.
No, Albert Wilson.
Albert Wilson's not getting 100 on targets though.
Yeah, my response was false alarm, as you were.
Yeah, Wilson and Amendola can split the other 80 or whatever that Landry's leaving there for Parker and Stills.
Yeah, I just think there's a ton of targets. I mean, 130 we put him at. Would have been 13th overall at volume last year. right behind Mike Evans.
Yeah.
But like there's a clear path to that.
Yeah.
He had 105 last year.
J Mike, on average, about 4 or 5 wide receivers per year have over 130 targets and don't finish in the top 15.
What? Wow. Okay.
But they're never not top 24.
What about top? I was going to say, how about top 24? Yeah. Wow.
The worst one was 26. That was A-Rob in 2016.
And
that was the worst one.
Quick question:
and Hopkins too?
How did you? Yeah, I mean, how did you find that so fast? I mean, what is there some resource you use to check that, or
no, nothing specific.
Oh, okay.
I guess we're not about to wrap up the show then.
Invitation, sorry, invitation to plug website denied. Okay, great. Cool. You don't have to plug it. It's cool.
So
good job, Addison.
No, I thought you asked me to come on, not the site.
These dang millennials. No, I'm just giving you a chance to shout yourself out. That's all. I think it's a great resource. And yes, we did ask you on. We've been asking you on. You said no for a long time, you turd.
This was like this. I've never been asked on before, actually.
Addison, you know what? I'm not even going to get into semantics with you.
Yeah, when was the last time you asked me on here?
Sorry, you're cutting out. I so many people come on this fucking show, like 3 people a week. Like, I just kind of figured you'd be on. I mean, think about that. Like, how many shows did you count up last week, J Mike? Like 40 or something?
A lot more than that, actually. Yeah.
50 shows. So like 150 plus guests. Or not really. That's not realistic. About
you're the math teacher. You tell me.
Well, equivalent to the Kenny Stills targets this year, around that. We'll say.
But do you agree that that's not absurd to think that he could get there?
Not absurd.
But do you also think it's not absurd that Parker could get that? Like, finger aside, this finger aside, do you think he could? 130 targets as well, and then then what happens? I mean, because I was saying that neither of them could be top 24 wide receivers. Where realistically, I mean, they could, if they're splitting up Landry's targets, and I know they have Amendola and Albert Wilson now to possibly, scoop those up. Anyways, I don't know.
But again, you're talking about a guy wide receiver 54. You just said off the board that has a legit path to 130 targets, which would lock him in at worst as wide receiver 26 when he was wide receiver 27 last year.
I mean, even if you put his, floor at 100 targets, that's totally fine, and he's still going to be way worth the pick there. So
that's my point. I just think he's really undervalued across the board.
Yeah. I mean, at least wide receiver 30, should be around relative to last year, I suppose, and not much has changed except for the fact that there are now 160 more targets.
So what's really interesting is twice in Tannehill's career, he's supported 2 wide receivers over a 20% market share. Wow, that's insane. But that came to a detriment of the running back position. So if you hate Kenyon Drake, I don't know.
I do.
2013's his target share is absolutely this target share breakdown is ridiculous. 6% to the RB1, 23% to the wide receiver 1, 24% to the wide receiver 2, and then 12% to the wide receiver 3, 17% to the tight end. Who does that?
Addison, where are you pulling that data from?
Who does that?
Who was the Miami's running back in 2013?
Was it no?
I was barely alive for that year.
True. Not. I was Ajayi was 2014, right, or even 15.
He was 14 and 15. Was that no Sean?
Kind of.
Oh man,
this is embarrassing.
Going back.
This is
Cat.
Lamar,
It was
Lamar
Lamar
Miller.
Miller. It was
where
Lamar
we
Miller.
didn't.
Oh, Lamar
yeah,
Miller.
Lamar Miller. I forgot he was.
He had
And Daniel Thomas. They split carries that year.
6%.
And then Mike Wallace was their number 2 receiver, who's got a very similar game to Kenny Stills, and he had 115
Right.
targets that year. But like, it's also going to be really interesting to see how he adjusts with no Jarvis Landry and underneath receiver who has that game where they
That's
focus.
true. Yeah.
So like, you know, I think we spent enough time on Kenny Stills though.
Fair enough. Who
Do we want to go to John Brown now?
He's going to be really good in the 3 games he plays.
I don't even know if I'm all that interested in like the receiver for the Ravens. I mean, their price is great, I suppose. I mean, what's the most expensive one? Like wide receiver 35 or 40 with Crabtree
Where's
or
Crabtree?
something?
Yeah, where's he
So,
going?
6th or 7th round, at least in best ball. I don't know the wide receiver off the board number because I just, I have targets in certain rounds. That's how I look at it.
yeah, no, that's fair. But Flacco is not one to really support two receivers. I mean, he's done it before. I think once or twice. I can't remember. But and I guess the talent's there. I don't know. I want John Brown to succeed, but it's just so hard. So
He's a
hard.
best ball pick.
Yeah, he's a best ball pick for sure. Closing thoughts, arguments, guys. Are we good? Are we satisfied? Do you need to say anything else fantasy football related before you say things selfishly?
I'll say something.
Okay.
I just always need to say something. No, I'll say thank you for having us all on. Besides being schooled about quarterbacks from Elliot Chris, it's just nice to be able to have kind of a free flowing forum where it's not, hey, I'm talking about preseason week 1 this week or something very, very specific. It's a very open-ended conversation that leads to 40 minutes of Kenny Stills talk. And it's just awesome to be able to have this conversation with guys I've never actually met before, and we can just randomly get together and hang out like this. So thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Crabtree is the 28th receiver coming off the board. John Brown and Willie Snead are not being drafted like at all.
John Brown's sneaking up in best ball.
Yeah.
Like he was not drafted 3 weeks ago, and now he goes in like the 16th round. Tim, that was really beautifully said. I don't want anyone to not respond to that. I didn't
was
school
getting
you on
back to it. I
quarterbacks.
just had to say that before I forgot.
I didn't school you on quarterbacks, man. We just had a different philosophy on it. Yeah, I just wanted to say that. I don't know.
Thank you for your input, Elliot. You do know your stuff about quarterbacks. I think we could all agree on that. And I think you have a good process in terms of evaluating quarterbacks. So, I mean, schooled or not, whatever, but I think that you know some things.
Was that hard for you to be nice to me? Like that felt like you were uncomfortable being nice.
It was a little
I really appreciate
I
it.
was really pushing it out.
I think it was forced.
Yeah, 100%. God, how did you see through me like that, Elliot? And I didn't even say that genuinely, so I don't know where we land from there. J Mike is absent currently, fellas. He he could be being evaluated for not sure. Possibly the Kenny Stills take, possibly the John Brown take. The takes have taken a toll on his esophagus and other body parts, but we all wish him well. I think that he's sort of given me permission to carry on and carry out. If that is all right with y'all, unless you've got something else that's bothering you badly. Very well. Okay. Well, we need some closing things for you to say. Tim, I do actually genuinely want to say thank you for saying what you said, because that is the exact element that we want to create here. We want to bring in people who have possibly never met before, who have possibly never met us. That's happened plenty of times. Addison being one, and I mean, we've talked in DMs and whatnot, but certainly not on a podcast. So for us to have this opportunity and to be able to speak to the Gen public like this, and the fantasy community is, and J Mike says this way better than me, but it's truly a blessing. So thank y'all. Don't thank us for the invite. Thank y'all, because it's been awesome. It's a good show.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes.
Yes.
Elliot.
I just had to say that. I had to say that because you told us not to thank you. No, this is fun, man. It's fun. It's back and forth. It's a good time. Like, you know, like Tim was saying, it's very different than other podcasts, and it's more relaxed, and it's more of a conversation, and it's free flowing, and it's a good time. And I appreciate you having us on. And you know, I feel really blessed to know you as well.
Hey. Now we're coming together, Elliot. We hope.
I felt a lot less forced for him from him than it from you.
But actually, you need to plug your things. This is a big time for everyone here. I know you already said it at the start of the pod, but big time for you, Elliot, and your website. Big time for you, Addison, and Tim. You're starting up a podcast for FF Statistics, and I know you've got a thing going on for the season. So seriously, say things. Addison, we'll start with you, my man.
I'm on Twitter at no, honestly, yeah, I'll just want to thank you for finally having me on after I've begged to be on here.
I'm going to go back in the
week.
pod history. Pretty sure you were on.
Never been on. But not, yeah. So the website that I've been using all night, FF Statistics. So I appreciate all the love and support that you guys have had for the site and everything like that. So ffstatistics.com. Tim and I are starting up a podcast together. So check that one out. We just did episode 1 last week, and episode 2 will be, I think we're recording tonight. And so that'll be dropping tomorrow or Thursday. I don't know. But we have articles now starting to pour out. And then if you want to sign up for our 2018 membership to get access to the start sit tool and the soon to come redraft trade analyzer and everything that we have for the site as well, that would be it. And then at AmazeHaze_ on Twitter if you decide that you want to follow me because you like me or something. I don't know.
Okay, I didn't know that was the stipulation. So do in fact like you, will press the follow button.
Didn't you make a song for us?
Second. F.
The distance.
That was fun. That was fun. I think the video was really the only thing.
It went viral.
That was. I just have no respect for myself. That's all I really have to say about that. If anyone cares about that, I make rap intros, and that you can find them somewhere in my feed. But Elliot, down the line here, what do you got to say, dude?
No, I appreciate having me on. It was a lot of fun. Check out thequantedge.com. You're gonna have a ton of DFS tools and ton of content towards betting and DFS that you can't really find elsewhere. In terms of wide receiver cornerback matchups, the injury tool, an optimizer. There's going to be a head-to-head tool. You're going to be able to compare matchups. It's going to be, a ton of DFS content, over 20 podcasts and articles a week combined. Exclusive members for the exclusive content for the members. And you can follow me on Twitter at Elliot Christ, and you can check out the Quant Edge at thequantedge.com, or follow us on Twitter at the Quant Edge. You can also search TQE, and that'll come up as well.
And if you would like to be a part of the Elliot Christ fan club, aka the Christies, just at him on Twitter and just request to be a part of that club. I think he runs that. So,
who wants to be the first member of the Christies? That's the real question, right? Because there are 0 current members of the Christies.
I think you have 4 right now, pal.
4 all right. Well, from now on, when someone attacks me, all 4 of you need to come and defend my aunt. That's part of being a Christie.
Hey, we're your Mount Rushmore, baby. No sweat. All right. And Tim.
Yeah, thanks again for having me on. You can find me on Twitter at TimNFL. I'm on the premium and every other week for Under the Helmet, uthdynasty.com. I also write over at the Browns Wire. I'll be covering fantasy football for them throughout the regular season, and I'm doing a little bit of a warm-up. My next column will be reviewing the pass catchers for the Browns. So good thing Corey Coleman got himself out of there before I dropped that one. And finally, we are starting a podcast. This will be episode 2 tonight for myself and Addison at ffstatistics.com.
Cool. Looking forward to all your stuff. It's that time of year. I mean, the more and more comes out, I think the more and more people get excited. So whether it's DFS, redraft, dynasty, it's all there. And seriously, both of y'all's websites kind of cover everything. So it's pretty great to have you all on in one place. J Mike, I was hoping that we could possibly just elongate that to a point where he could return, but I think we are at that time. So I'll say words for him. He's in rough shape. Y'all need to seriously go get at him on Twitter and thank him for even coming on the show tonight. He's a hero. Okay. That was insane. I'm pretty sure he was migraining through every single light that was beaming off of the computer and probably just turning on and off the brightness of his computer just to stay a little bit alive. So thank you, J Mike. Maybe you'll be listening to this later. Appreciate you, my man, and get well. We all care for you deeply. We'll be back next week. We're trying to throw a ladies' night in somewhere. We started talking about that. Maybe that'll happen. Who knows? But it's likely that we'll be back next week. If J Mike has a migraine still next week, he is definitely not coming on the podcast, and he is going straight for the MRI room. So we are with Fake Pigskin. They are putting us on. Thank y'all for doing what you do and allowing us to have a platform to share our, I don't know, in quotes, knowledge, or at least everyone else's knowledge. And we'll probably see y'all next week. People, put your drinks up if you've got one. If you don't, a fist works too. Elliot, the headband would work as well, or maybe a bicep of sorts, anything like that. Thanks. Oh, I'm just going to cheers myself. This is great. Awkward. Great. The 2 viewers are going to really enjoy that one. Thanks, guys. We will see y'all next week. Hey, thanks, Tim. Deuces.